All right, thank you for joining us on this Tuesday. We're thankful to have Jay Townley here again to present a webinar series number 5 on the U.S. Bicycle Market Overview 2020 report. Today's session is on bicycle product portfolio and profitable bike shop merchandising. I'm really looking forward to Jay's presentation today. We'll let him present, and at the end we'll do some question and answer, and any follow-up. The session will be recorded, so if you're not able to watch it with us live today, you want to refer back to it, the recording will be on the NBDA website. Jay, I think I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, well, thank you, Heather.
You're welcome.
I, as usual, am going to stop video just for the presentation portion. I'll come back and be live up front and personal for the question and answer session. And this, as Heather said, is bicycle product portfolio and profitability for bike shop and merchandising. This is actually the 5th in a series of 8 webinars featuring each of the 16 chapters of the NBDA U.S. Bicycle Market Overview 2020 report. The report has been out now for several months. We've had really good response to it. What I try to do when I do the webinars is update the sections as we get into them. So there's a little bit of additional information in this particular section, but it's been built around something we've been doing for the NBDA on an annual basis for at least 6 years now. And that's looking at the bicycle product portfolio, which essentially is the whole catalog of bicycle product that specialty bicycle retailers are selling in our channel of trade. It'll take me just a minute here to advance. This is for those of you that have followed the webinars before, is the piece that takes a little bit. I'm never quite sure why. And I apologize for the delay. There we go. Introduction. This is an opportunity for us to go through both the introduction to this webinar and also to what we'll be showing you relative to the market overview report. So what we include here is the best use of the NBDA U.S. Bicycle Market Overview 2020 report, which I'm hoping that some of you have just purchased or are considering purchasing, so that this webinar will be a window into the kind of information that you're going to be able to get from this report, which is 125 pages. So what we suggest first is that you read all of the report, and this may take several mornings or evenings, but there's a lot of material for you to update here, and there are also lots of tables, charts, and illustrations, all of which have been brought up to date through 2020, some of which will give you several decades of trend line. And this is going to give you an overview of the current U.S. bicycle market and the bicycle business going into 2021. And obviously, we're well past the midpoint of the year as this year evolves. Now, second, we'd like you to look at this 125 pages and then determine which chapters and data sets will be most helpful for your business, specifically your business and your strategic plan. And yes, if I want to make that clear, I'm advising that you write down a business plan. If you've got one, great. If you don't, write it down. Prepare a business plan for your bike shop business. Third, carefully reread and study the last 4 chapters and extract the suggested business strategies for your review and consideration that are applicable to your specialty bicycle retail business. In other words, take the market overview report and pick out the pieces that are most applicable to your business. Now, one of the things that we're concerned about here are the 4 takeaways from your reading of the NBDA U.S. Bicycle Market Overview 2020 report. And not only reading that report, but this and the following 5 webinars. I want you to write down your most important findings from the 2020 report and this webinar as well. It also would be appropriate for you to commit to your own business plan, as I said, with financial benchmarks and key performance indicators. They're known as KPIs. And look up the anniversary date of your specific NBDA membership, please, and put it on your calendar to make sure you renew your NBDA membership in a timely fashion. And fourth, join an NBDA P2 group, and I'll repeat that. Join an NBDA P2 group. I stumbled over it again. P2 groups are extremely important. As soon as this webinar is finished, visit the NBDA website if you haven't already, and look into the detail of what a P2 group is all about. There are 20 groups that are known very well in the automotive, in the motorcycle, in the campground industries, and they represent an opportunity for you to be able to expand your financial knowledge of your business. So please give that serious consideration by visiting the NBDA website, nbda.com. Now we're going to turn to today's agenda. And what we're going to start with is a look at the independent bicycle dealer bicycle product portfolio, as I said. And we're going to look at it from a pre-COVID and a post-COVID standpoint, because they're slightly different. The pre-COVID goes back to research work and developments relative to the research, consumer research, and talking to consumers about whether they were able to really be satisfied in a bike shop given the breadth of the products that they were presented, the breadth of products that they had to sort through. Certainly there's been a shortage of products, so there's a post-COVID period, and there's also a post-COVID opportunity for you. We're also going to visit and examine not all, but some of the niche product categories, including e-bikes. Believe it or not, e-bikes still going through 2020 are a niche. In talking to people at the Big Gear show last week, we found that there's general agreement that e-bikes are about no more than 5% market share, which puts them in large niche and graduating niche categories, but still a niche category that's about to expand exponentially, we believe. We're going to move on to GBB merchandising. For those of you that are scratching your heads, that's good, better, best merchandising, and the power of curating collections and curated collections. What does that boil down to? Well, we'll explain it in detail, but it's basically you're the curator, and you look at your local market and you curate the collection of products that are available to consumers in your specialty bike retail store. And also we're going to look at the previously owned market, which has been important but became even more important during the pandemic and will continue to be important going forward because of the rising circular economy. And we're going to take a look at the future and what we feel the future holds relative to product portfolio, merchandising, and profitability for bike shops. And then we're going to follow that with a question and answer session. So moving forward, as I said, the product portfolio, we're breaking into 2 parts, pre-COVID, and there are the 2 little bullets down at the bottom here are the important ones. You guys remember when Shimano and IDO published the coasting research? And for those of you that may not remember coasting, is Shimano came up with an automatic shifting system for bicycles. Because what is well documented is women in general don't like to shift a bicycle, no matter what the shifting system. So Shimano came up with an automatic shifting system. They're quite popular today, particularly in the race categories for high-end road bikes. But this was a consumer and a commuting bicycle series. Shimano did a great deal of research with IDO. Now, IDO is famous because they are the industrial design firm that did and probably still does all, if not a great deal of the design work for Apple. And they do a lot of research work, consumer research work in conjunction with that. So the Shimano research confirmed, one, the reason for the coasting system, which was that women do not like to shift bicycles. The other thing that it found was that consumers were confused in bike shops because of the breadth, size of the selections, and also the overlaps. Now, this coincided a little after a BPSA, Bicycle Product Supplier Association. This goes back in history, just before the Great Recession of 2008, 2009. And BPSA commissioned consumer research that was quite extensive, and in turn created a lot of discussion, and was the topic of a whole day's worth of presentation at a bicycle bicycle industry conference, when it was a joint conference of wholesale suppliers, or BPSA, and the National Bicycle Dealers Association. And the researchers spent a day presenting the research that had been commissioned, that was presented, as it says here, in the 2007 Bicycle Leadership Conference. The combination of these two documented that in most non-enthusiast customers' minds, relative to how they responded to both the ID research and the 2006, 2007 BPSA research, consumers didn't get what they need from their shopping experience at a bike shop, and that too much choice hurts purchases at bike shops. Now, this hasn't changed. If there is too much product, particularly across lines, that is piled up and confusing both the consumer, and quite frankly, my belief has been that this also confuses the shop employees, the associates, and in particular the part-time associates that are brought in for what would be peak periods. Now, this is pre-COVID. Post-COVID is a different situation, but some of the same things exist in the mind of the consumer. Moving on to post-COVID, which is evolving as we speak, but slower than originally thought during the first and second quarters of this year. Simply stated, the COVID and its variations are now creating a situation where some of the issues of social distancing and of masking up and making sure that you limit people in retail stores is beginning to come back because of the spread of the virus, which is in its current variant very, very, very deadly. So the issue here is that in the post-COVID period, what can dealers do to improve profitability and make the best out of the situation that's been created because of the shortages? And part of what we've looked into is this product portfolio that confused pre-COVID, and are advising especially bike retailers to develop their own merchandising mix for their local specialty bicycle retailer and for their audience, for their consumer base, so that your assortment plan is crafted to both your specialty bike retail business and your specialty bicycle retail customers in your neighborhood or in your market area. Now, you can still include all the bike brands that you feel are appropriate and profitable for your business. But part of the key here is, as part of that business plan where I said, write it down, is to also take a look at your merchandising plan. And that merchandising plan needs to be complete for not just bicycles, but for parts, for accessories, particularly the accessory categories. But we're not taking the time here to do anything more than bicycles, but this is the example or template that you can use for a broader merchandising plan for all the products that are in your retail store. So first step is develop your merchandising mix. The next is take a look at your assortment plan. And then the additional opportunity here is to drill down into your category and model selections. Essentially, what we're talking about is if a product segment from a brand is 6 to 8 choices with price steps that are $25 to $50 at suggested retail each or a part, that you move back, rethink, shorten that up. Now we'll get into the good, better, best, but essentially it is exactly that. That you take a look at 3, no more than 4 product selections and move your price spreads into the $100, $150, even $200 price breaks between the step ups in a category. So that you are developing not only specific segment stories that you can tell, but it's a part of a logical assortment and price point plan. Specifically, again, for your store. You translate that then to display. And the display, the merchandising is part and parcel of that, but it's also the hang tags, it's the way in which you sign the product, it's the way in which you also deal with your store marketing, the selling, which leads to your training of your employees and sales associates. So given a time of shortage, part of the opportunity is, of course, looking at the product lines and how you can take advantage of shortage by building a good, better, best merchandising plan around the availability of the products that you can bring in post-COVID, and then flesh that out as you get the availability of more product moving forward as the supply chain begins to catch up to the demand in the market. Now, niche products to me are particularly important for discussion here, not only because of availability, but also because of popularity. And I haven't taken all the niches like folding bikes, which are extremely popular, but wanted to focus on 3 sectors, recumbents, and as I said, electric. Believe it or not, electric still is below 5% market share overall in 2020. Was lower than that. If you were at the last webinar we did about 2 weeks ago was on the electric bike segment. And also, if you take a look at the chapter that is in the Bicycle Market Overview 2020 report, it's got all of the data that we've been able to collect going back to about 2000 and going forward. Recumbents, which are the lead here, are becoming, we call it a graduated segment. Recumbents have grown enough that they're moving into the double-digit percentages, and there's a broad range of product types. The one that's shown here is a cat trike. Now, cat trike is Orlando, Florida, made in the United States with obviously some imported componentry, very high quality, and represents also, what I haven't shown here is electric assist, is built right into the product line. This is a tri. And it has there are regular 2-wheel recumbents that take advantage of the muscularity and the riding position. Tris, of course, are not dependent upon balance. So there are certain consumers, including me. I have ridden and owned several recumbents, including Orion, which is a long beam for you folks that follow the recumbent market, under the seat steering. But also I have a benign vertigo, something that comes on in waves and is unpleasant, but also affects my balance. With a recumbent, that's not an issue. With a recumbent, I'm also, and many senior riders are finding very comfortable. One of the leading companies in the recumbent brand series that are in recumbent brands that is quite popular in the market has a basic sales approach. They tell consumers, look, it's like sitting in a lawn chair. You straddle it, sit down, it's like sitting in a lawn chair. Put your legs up. You can use clip-ons. You can also use the toe clip and strap approach, depending on the shoe wear. And of course, the clip-ons give you the ability to be higher performance. They are multi-speed. And here's the other piece that goes with it for those of you that are really interested. Much like the electric bike, the recumbents are faster than a conventional bicycle. they are outlawed by the UCI because you cannot ride recumbents in the professional racing circuits, grand tours, etc., because they're faster. So for old guys that want to smoke the young people, this is a good way to do it. And if you have balance issues, or if you're just basically uncomfortable because of arthritis, because of other physical issues in riding a conventional bicycle, there's virtually no pain. You can see the nice padded seat. They're very comfortable products. And the visual issues, because one of the one of the things that has been said about recumbents is the conspicuity, that is your lower. How do you get the visibility up? Those issues are basically solved by flags, by lights, and by other things that are readily available in the market, and also just making sure you ride the recumbents in areas that give you really good visibility to consumers. Recumbents are in growth, as I said, double digit and growing. There are American-made product from, again, imported componentry, which is an issue. It's not just bikes that are shortage. But it's well worth taking a look at the category relative to your older senior riders. Along with that is a crossover to electric. Electric and electric assist is permeating every product category, niche, and standard. Electric, we feel, is the wave of the future. We do not disagree with that assessment for 1 minute. Electric certainly is a growth area that will require you, as our electric assist for recumbents or any other type of bike, to understand lithium-ion batteries and the safe charging and storage of same. And we've done protocols for that the NBDA has posted on their website. And we'll be talking more about it in future webinars and also at shows. But electric overall is a growth category that is, the last time I looked, I think was perfectly legal within 36 to 37 states, thanks to the excellent lobbying work being done by People for Bikes and their electric bike committee. And they represent a new era of cycling. We've predicted in the next 5 years, you'll see electric simply meld with regular bikes, which I've heard called acoustic bikes. So that when you do your product merchandising and selection, it's going to be a particular model that does not have electric assist, and then you move to the models that have electric assist. And in some cases, it's going to be part and parcel of your product selection, because whole categories will simply be electric assist, particularly as lithium-ion batteries improve, as they get smaller, and as the bicycle brands are learning to house lithium-ion batteries in down tubes, which is becoming more and more popular with the high-end brands in the U.S. market. So these two categories, sub product categories, we feel, not sub product categories, niche product categories, we feel are important to look at for growth in the future, and also to build into your merchandise plan. Also, cargo and family. From the standpoint of your bicycle product merchandising and bicycle product planning, cargo and family have been, I'm hearing more and more about them, particularly with electric assist. One of the primary virtues you see in the top picture here in this slide, and that is being able to take multiple children on the long frame cargo bikes. Extra Cycle invented this category in the United States. And the lower left-hand picture is indicative of a bucket bike of European design. So the American cargo bikes that originated here are essentially the long bike designs with the long back end from the seat mast going back to the wheel. And the European designs are cargo bikes going from the head tube forward. As you see here, this one is set up for kids or cargo. And I'm also showing a mid-drive e-bike, long frame, set up for cargo carrying. And you're seeing more and more of the cargo and family bikes in the market. The cargo bikes are growing for delivery, and of course, represent a pollution-free, environmentally friendly or friendlier means of moving food, meals, boxes, deliveries, express deliveries, messages within urban environments, and also being able to transport larger family groups and do it with safety and assurity. And all of these are set up for electric assist or electric versions of the product. So cargo and family, I know were discussed at length in the last series of webinars we did on electric bikes, and also are growing in popularity from the standpoint of the market, represent categories that dealers should be taking a look at relative to what else to include in the product portfolio. And when you do that, consider them as a part of the overall store plan, the merchandising, making sure staff also understands the products, the product attributes, and how to properly present them. And if you've got choices in models, take a look again, as we'll discuss, at the good, better, best approach. Now, the last piece of the niche product categories is what we call locally built bicycles. And what I'm showing here is Heritage General Store. This is a 3-store, maybe 4-store operation in Chicago. These are bike shops that locate in neighborhoods. This one is in Lincoln Park, a northern suburb of Chicago, high household income. Now, this happens to be a specialized dealer, but also started its program with what I'm showing on the right side of the slide here. The Heritage Chief Classic is one of a series of locally made bikes that this specialty bicycle retailer builds on site, part of what they show inside of this store, which also has meals, sandwiches, lunches, dinners. And you notice it's not listed as a bike shop. It's showing locally handcrafted bicycles, and the name is Heritage General Store, because it's a neighborhood business that is doing everything it can to create its brand in its neighborhood, and also in turn in providing locally handcrafted bicycles. And by the way, the reason I showed the Heritage Chief Classic is I want to point out that these are not custom. These are not the handcrafted high-end $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, and $6,000 bikes, which there's a place for in the market, a really good place and a strong niche. These are, look at the price here, $949. These are $800 to $3,000 bicycles for the urban market, crafted by the shop, and use and utilize as much, in this case, Chicago componentry, Chicago made product, as the dealer can bring to the merchandising and to the product offering. This dealership also has a very aggressive electric bike program. And that is where the specialized product comes in. It also has a very well-developed direct-to-consumer web program. And that website also sells on a broader market area than just within the Chicago market. But Chicago is big, and they've located additional stores in other neighborhoods. But the locally built bicycles has many attributes, one of which is the merchandising capability. The other is, depending on componentry sourcing and availability, it's not as susceptible to the shortages and the problems of the supply chain that the complete bicycle business or portion of the business has. And lastly, it's completely out from under any brand influence or brand control. The dealer that uses locally built product or sells locally built product that they craft, also have then complete control of their ability to sell this product, to merchandise this product, and from their standpoint, to make full margin of 50% or more on these products. So moving on to the good, better, best, or the GBB merchandising. I know that there is some concern and pushback, and you'll get this mostly from the brand side of the equation. And that is, you got to have all these products available for the consumer when you can get them. That was pre-COVID. Post-COVID, of course, is going to build back to a situation where eventually all those products will be available. But the research evidence, going back to the two studies I showed you, going 2007, 2008, 2009 into the period before the Great Recession and certainly before the COVID, shows the wisdom of the good, better, best approach, which I've seen operate in specialty bicycle retail stores with big brands in them. The dealers in the cases that I've studied have sat down with the brands, and this is, top three, have sat down with the brands and negotiated the good, better, best merchandising, have told the brand salespeople and the brand management, look, I can sell you more, which is what the data shows, by the way. I can sell you more of your brand if you let me choose a good, better, best from a category instead of having to carry all 6 or 8 that you offer. I will also guarantee that I can sell more of your product in the process. And it has worked extremely well in every market where they can, of course, get product. We suggest to you strongly that good, better, best is the way to go coming out of COVID for several reasons. It's both product availability, it is the ease and quality of your training of sales associates, particularly the part-time, as we mentioned, when you can get employees, and that's a separate topic for a separate webinar, but also it's the ability that we saw pre-COVID for the dealers that explained to the brands the metrics and the research and the dollars, that the retailer will sell more if you narrow the choices and make it more logical and create a situation where there's more difference between the good to the better and the better to the best, instead of a $25, $50, $70, $75 spread, which is at retail harder to explain because there's fewer differences. It's $100, $125, $150, $175 spreads, which has more product differences for the dollar difference and is easier to explain. And we feel also meets the criterion of the research done by both Shimano and also the Bicycle Product Supplier Association to make consumers more comfortable and easier and to understand the merchandising plan and the products available from the specialty bicycle retailer. Now, this leads to curated collections, which were becoming popular pre-COVID, have been problematical post-COVID unless you're doing locally made bikes, where you've been able to get more consistent delivery of componentry to build the bikes up locally in the store for the local market. Curated collections. You are a specialty bicycle retailer who is the expert in your community. Your community looks at you as the brand. It looks at you and your associate, your sales associate staff, your service associate staff as the experts in your community. So what you present is you tell your consumers that you as the experts have created this collection of product. You've curated this collection of product. And that this collection of product is, in your estimation, not only the best products to present, but the most logical products for consumers to make their own. So like an art collection or collections of any type, you're presenting to the consumer the brands you've selected as the brands that you feel are the best for them, and the products in the store are the curated collection of products you feel are best for them. So curated collections, as I say, started to catch on pre-COVID. Take a look at it from a post-COVID standpoint, because it allows you to take essentially what you can get and look at how you can craft that into a sales and merchandising plan that is a curated collection, and you and your staff present that to the consumers as your choices for them. And then previously owned. Used bikes, but previously owned, not only became very popular when you couldn't get new bikes, and more popular than they were prior to the COVID, but we feel will be extremely important moving forward. One of the larger of the high-end previously owned brands is Pro's Closet. And they've got programs and plans where they work with dealers, and you can offer your consumer a trade-in program through Pro's Closet. So there are programs where you can use it as a part of the new bike merchandising sales plan. You can also take that philosophy and apply it to your own business, where you think through carefully the math and you put together a plan for your consumer that says, and oh, by the way, we will offer you a trade-in program for your new bike that you're buying from us, and what we will do with it. And then you can explain whether it's going to go to something like Pro's Closet or it's going to go into your own previously owned merchandise selection for your specialty retailer for your customers. Now, we advise that you do look at previously owned very carefully, not only because of the margin, which is good. Previously owned is really attractive to bike shops because these are 40%, 45% to 50% plus gross margins. And we feel the growth is going to be there with more demand for previously owned bikes because of the circular economy. Now, what is the circular economy? There's a younger group of consumers coming up, the millennials and younger, who firmly believe that you don't buy it new, you buy it used, or you go together with other people and you share it, you co-own it. So this is working in urban areas in the bicycle arena. It's also becoming popular in clothing, believe it or not. And I will tell you personally that I, over the years, have gravitated to the point where I very rarely buy new clothing of any type. And I will go to, in our area, it's St. Vinny's. It is Goodwill in many other areas, but it is where you can get good, previously owned garments or items, furniture, cooking items, etc. And from my standpoint, I feel that's better for the environment, and it's better for my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren going forward if I am consuming less and I'm using the circular economy as a way that I, from my standpoint, am able to reuse what are perfectly good products and not revert back to what, as an old person in the community, my parents and my peers have taught me, and that is the disposable throwaway economy. And this, we feel, is going to be a factor in specialty bike retailing as well. So we ask you to consider it carefully as you put together your merchandising plan and you look at your product portfolio and you look at your product mix. Now, this all fits into the future because we've talked about the future in every webinar. Human Powered Solutions and the National Bicycle Dealers Association Market Overview Report considers 2020, last year, to be an inflection point, a turning point, after which dramatic change with positive results, in our view, are expected. Economists, when you look up this term inflection point, look at it as a point in time, a year, a date, when that which comes next is either very positive or very negative. We feel for a lot of reasons that, yeah, this is an inflection point. The market's changing, the consumer product desires, buying habits are changing, an inflection point relative to the economics of the bicycle business in the United States. But we feel that it's going to be a net gain. Not a boom, not a continuation of a boom, but still a net gain for a lot of reasons. What is important to keep in mind here is the great tragedy of COVID-19 created an opportunity for American bike shops in their local communities. Starting with the market overview report, we feel that what's going to come out of the COVID and the pandemic is what we call the Bicycling Relevance Index. You see, for decades, the bicycle business has spent time and money in great measure on building and enhancing the perception of bicycles and bicycling as viable solutions. The black swan economic event and public health crisis of COVID-19 and the pandemic have accomplished in 6 to 8 months what the bicycle business has labored at for 46 years since the end of the last legitimate, complete, and real bike boom. The surge in sales dollars and the revenue that you're experiencing now that started in 2020 are an added bonus. And as we come out of the pandemic, and we will, to the post-pandemic period, now this has been pushed out some. We don't think it's any longer going to be the end of 2020, but certainly going into 2022, we're going to see local bike shops, the American bicycle business, being able to seize the opportunity and make that perception of the bicycle as a solution the reality of the future. Now, we just noted before this webinar started that the infrastructure plan has passed the Senate, moving on to the House. That in turn will be followed by a transportation bill. If you've been following what the League of American Bicyclists have been saying about how their transportation bills in the House and the Senate are shaping up, they're extremely positive for bicycles, bicycling, electric bikes, electric cars, for alternate transportation. And that is the biggest increases in monies going from the federal government to the states, at least as proposed at this point by both the House and the Senate, that I've seen in my lifetime, that I've ever seen through all of the lobbying done by the bicycle industry at any time. Some of this is because the folks in Detroit have signaled to their representatives in the Senate and the House that they're all in for electric, as you've seen Ford, GM, and Chrysler move in that direction. And therefore, they expect their elected representatives to make sure that electric is the wave of the future. But it also has been the rise of the bicycle during the pandemic period, that bicycling index and use and relevance index increasing. And this is reflected in the transportation bills that are now moving through the Congress of the United States, that I'm sure are going to be able to take great advantage of the bipartisan approach that just got an infrastructure bill through the Senate of the United States. So the future looks, we think, good to bright. We think the inflection point is going to lead to a positive bicycle business, bicycle e-bike business, micro-mobility business going forward from 2022 forward. And we urge you to put together your own business plan and begin to think about that future as it relates to your local business in your local community. So in summary, we looked at the IBD product portfolio, both pre-COVID and post-COVID. We've looked at and examined in some detail what we think are some important niche products for especially bike retailers to look at and really think seriously about relative to their businesses post-COVID, and particularly their product portfolio and their merchandising plans going forward, and to incorporate the GBB merchandising, or the good, better, best merchandising, along with curated collections and the expansion of previously owned product catering to the circular economy that's moving forward in many markets at a fairly rapid pace based on both post-COVID and what we see as the future coming out of the post-COVID period. And we looked at the future at some length and have emphasized that in our belief, there's great hope for the bicycle business going forward, that it's not going to be a continuation of the so-called sales boom or sales surge that we saw in 2020 and parts of 2021, but it's still going to be a net gain and a strong position for the bicycle business, in particular, especially bicycle retailers in their communities. So with that said, I am going to uncloak and ask Heather if we got any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. This has been a fabulous presentation. We have about 12 shops in attendance. I'm thankful for everyone who's showed up today to listen. Lots of great advice here. If anyone has questions, you can go ahead and place them in the chat or the Q&A function, and we can ask Jay while he's here with us today.
And also, if there's any questions you get, Heather, after we're done or that we don't get to, send them to me and I'll do my best to answer by email.
Yeah, everyone could send those questions to me as well at heather@nbda.com, and I can send them to Jay.
I will tell you that while we're waiting for some questions to come in, that Heather was still getting questions from the last webinar when we were at Big Gear last week.
We are. Yeah, well, they come up, you know, and people watch the recording. So Jay, we did have one come in from Josh Sutton. Hi, Josh. Thanks for being here. He says, any thoughts on mountain bikes and mountain biking in all of this?
It depends on part of its regional location, geography. Certainly, I grew up and worked in a bike shop in St. Paul, Minnesota. And, you know, that general terrain, it's like cornfields all over the place. I also will say back when I was in the bike shop, we thought gravel was the thing to ride on. So gravel bikes weren't a new thing to us back then. It was just the roads that we were on. But it depends on the roads that you are on, quite frankly, and the geography. Here in Wisconsin, there's lots of off-road and mountain biking, which I know are two different things. So I think you craft the selection to the market and the geography of both the market and what you're going to attract in the way of business. So you look at off-road bikes for relatively flat land. If you're in unglaciated areas or mountain areas, you look at true mountain bikes. Because you can get everything from a hardtail with a suspension front fork to full suspension to the full-on downhills. They're not all crossover to every piece of geography, so it depends on where you're located. I don't know, do you know where this dealer is located, Heather?
I think Josh is in Indiana, I think.
Indiana.
I think, I don't know, I think.
Josh, you're where it's flatter than a Dickens. It's worse than Minnesota. You know, again, there'll be off-road trails. There will be plenty of market for dual suspension trail bikes. I don't think there's going to be a lot of call for mountain unless they're folks that are going to come travel to Colorado or Utah. But still, there's a market for a bike that's specific for your trail area or for your geography. And talk to your staff. I think one of the best sources of information for that kind of information is staff. What do they ride? Where do they ride? What kind of bikes are they looking for?
Josh just commented that they have 9+ miles of technical trails. So now we got to go out and ride with them. Or I got to go out.
Well, get a trail bike, kid, but get a dual suspension.
Jay, this is a question from me. I mean, you mentioned the used bike market, and I know yesterday in our Monday Mingle, that was brought up as a way that retailers are really, you know, having something to sell and staying active. Anything more to talk about on the used bike market, Jay?
As I said, I think it's going to be an important growing segment of the business. And it could be as important as electric bikes for a lot of dealers. And it will include electric bikes, by the way. So it's going to be part of the same thing. I wasn't kidding. I don't buy new clothing anymore. I go to St. Vinny's. There's 3 of them in our area. That a Saturday before I went to Big Gear, I needed to buy some items of clothing, and I went to 2 of the St. Vinny's and bought clothing. That's partly me concerned about the environment and simply trying to do my part but there's also growth in that as a segment. So if we go online, we're going to see businesses that will deal in not only used clothing, but in turn will encourage you to return it. So look at what some of the big players are doing. I think REI has got a return program now where you can return goods, get credit, for the new stuff, or shop and get the circular economy, get the reused, get the previously owned. So it's not just going to be automobiles. I think it's going to grow and become a bigger part of bicycles. And then that leads to what kind of plans can you put together, like our friends at Pros Closet have done, where a bike shop can offer a consumer, here's the bike. Now think about this for kids, lower end bikes, because I know some guys up in Canada doing this. They offer the bike, and then at a price, they offer to trade it in. It's built into the whole merchandising arrangement. So when the child reaches a certain age, they come in with the with the bike. The bike then is traded in, and they get a bigger bicycle as a part of the package they're buying. Well, there's some shops, I'm sure, that will turn that to previously owned, reconditioned. So it's going to fit both social. It's going to both fit social want and need for those consumers that don't want to own it. They don't want to own new, which is the circular economy. And also it could be a merchandising advantage for the shop to offer to the consumer.
Yeah, I mean, we see Patagonia doing it.
Yes,
Steve, the bike guy, just says Levi's does. And especially with the news on our climate and where we're headed, I mean, we're definitely looking at something like this. Thank you, Jay. Any other questions, any other comments anyone has for the Q&A? I see N+1 Cyclery is here, and Moore's Bicycle Shop. Our friends at Slipping Gears are here. Spirited
Moore's down in Mississippi?
Yeah, I think James is here. So thank you for everyone. Yeah.
James is an absolute leader in used bike offerings. He's got a very unique situation where he's got 3 Walmarts in his community, and he went to the managers and worked out a deal that he gets all of what he refers to as the cripples from Walmart, which he reconditions and puts on the floor.
Yeah, he said yesterday in our Monday Mingle that he almost doesn't sell a new bike without saying, like, all right, bring your other one in, bring your old bike in, so we, trade it. It was great. Well, I think that's it for comments and questions. If anyone has anything they wanted to send to Jay, please, you can email me and I'll get it to him directly. Thank everyone for showing up. Jay, again, thank you for your support of the NBDA, for being such a good friend to retailers and our industry.
My pleasure. Enjoyed it greatly, and let me know if there's any webinar questions that come in. I'll do my best to answer them.
All right. Oh, wait, we got one more coming in here. Oh, that was just a thanks. You're welcome.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty.
Have a great afternoon, everyone. See you later. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.